The quiet part came first. Not the yelling, not the confrontation, but that strange hush that settles over a space when something is about to go wrong and everybody knows it. I was sitting in seat 2. A hoodie, zipped-up earbuds hanging around my neck, staring at my phone without really seeing it, when a shadow stopped in front of me and didn't move. I looked up and saw a man in a crisp pilot's uniform staring down like I'd wandered into his living room uninvited. In that moment, I thought, okay, here we go. This is one of those stories. He didn't say hello, didn't ask how my day was. He said flat and confident, "You're in the wrong seat." Not a question, a verdict. I told him calmly, "I don't think I am," and showed him my boarding pass on my phone. He didn't even look at it. He just glanced at my clothes, my sneakers, my hair pulled back without effort, and said, "You don't match the profile for premium seating. I need you to move to the back so we can depart on time." That word stuck in my head profile like I'd been reduced to a blurry photo in someone else's imagination. What he didn't know, and what no one else on that plane knew yet, was that earlier that afternoon I'd finalized an acquisition that made me the majority owner of this airline. No announcement, no headlines yet, that was coming days later. I wanted to experience the company as a normal passenger, no special treatment, no rehearsed smiles. So I dressed like myself, tired, comfortable, invisible on purpose. Most days, that invisibility lets me move through the world peacefully. That day, it turned me into a target. Even getting on the plane had been a small battle. At the gate, the agent barely glanced up, waved me aside, told me economy boarding was later. I slid the boarding pass back toward him. He sighed, annoyed, then froze when he read it. Premium seat, paid in full. He apologized fast, the way people do when they realize they misjudged you. I smiled because honestly I was too tired to care. Walking down the jet bridge, I remember thinking how surreal it felt to own something this large and still be treated like I didn't belong anywhere near it. You know what I mean? On board, the vibe was polite but sharp. The flight attendant hesitated when she scanned my pass, asked if there'd been an upgrade mistake, reminded me to keep my bag tucked away, even though overhead bins were empty. Little signals, quiet but clear. I sat down, opened my tablet, tried to focus on work and not the way people kept glancing at me like they were trying to solve a puzzle. Then the captain stepped out of the cockpit. He had that old-school authority, energy, silver hair, squared shoulders, the kind of confidence that comes from never being questioned. He nodded at the suited guy across the aisle, smiled at the woman with designer luggage, then his eyes landed on me and hardened. He leaned toward the flight attendant, whispered something I wasn't supposed to hear, but definitely did, then came straight over. "The seat isn't for crew," he said. "If you're non-revenue, you need to relocate." I told him I wasn't crew and I wasn't moving. He scoffed, said there were security considerations that he might need the seat for someone important. When I asked if that someone existed, he snapped that it was classified. That's when the cabin got quiet. You could feel people listening. I felt that familiar heat rise, the one that comes when you're being told you don't belong somewhere you earned your way into. I kept my voice even. "I paid for this seat. I'm staying." His jaw tightened. He leaned closer and said low enough to sound threatening, "You're making people uncomfortable. You don't look like a premium passenger. You can walk to the back or I can have you removed." Other passengers started paying attention. A man across the aisle spoke up, said I'd been polite the whole time. A woman, a few rows back, muttered that it looked like bullying. That should have been the moment he backed off. Instead, he doubled down. He grabbed the intercom and told the gate he had a disruptive passenger refusing instructions, possibly intoxicated. I hadn't even had water yet. Yeah, that happened. Security came on board. Big presence radios buzzing. The captain pointed at me like I was a problem to be solved. I explained calmly, showed my ticket, told them exactly what he'd said about me not fitting the profile. They looked uncomfortable, but rules are rules. Pilot's authority. If he wants you off, you're off, and you argue later. I stood up because I knew resisting would only feed his story. Before stepping into the aisle, I looked him in the eye and said quietly, "You're making a mistake. I'll give you one chance to apologize and let me sit back down." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Get off my plane," he said. So I did. Standing in the terminal watching the jet bridge pull away, something inside me went very still. Not anger yet, just clarity. I called my operations chief and told him exactly what happened. There was a silence on the line that said everything. I told him to ground the flight. Don't let it move. Patch me through to whoever he had to. I wasn't leaving the gate. Up in the cockpit, the captain was probably feeling pretty good. Engines, humming checklists, running power intact. Then, ground control told him to hold. Company stop. Executive order. Jet bridge reconnecting. Confusion crept in, you could almost taste it. In the terminal, the station director came running, the kind of run you only see when careers are about to end. She stopped in front of me, breathless, apologized, said my name out loud. The security officers went pale when she said who I was. Owner. Majority owner. Suddenly, the tone changed. I walked back onto that plane behind her. Same hoodie, same sneakers. The cabin went silent. The captain opened the door mid-rant and froze when he saw me. He couldn't process it. He tried to block my way. The director told him to stand down, explained exactly who I was and what I owned. You could see the color drain from his face. He started apologizing fast, blaming stress protocol. My clothes. I let him talk, then showed him the video another passenger had sent me, him yelling, him lying to security. Clear as day. I told him filing a false report was serious, that abusing his authority wasn't safety, it was ego. Then I asked for a replacement crew. He lost it. Union contract seniority, you can't do this. I told him I wasn't firing him, just removing him from my property. I asked security to escort him off. The same people he'd called on me. The irony hung thick in the air. After he was gone, the cabin exhaled. I sat back down, hands shaking, a little adrenaline finally draining. The flight attendant came by, offered champagne. I asked her why she'd stayed silent earlier. She cried, said she was afraid of him, that he'd ruined careers before. I told her, fear explains behavior, it doesn't excuse it. She kept her job, but she also got retraining. Accountability matters, but so does growth. We took off late with a new captain. Smooth flight. While most people slept, I watched internal company channels light up with rumors and defensiveness. I didn't post. I listened. By the time we landed, the story had exploded online, chopped up clips making it look like I was the problem. The former captain was already on TV playing the victim, saying management wasn't even on the flight. He was betting on anonymity on delay on me staying quiet. Instead, I went live. At a company-wide meeting streamed to the public, I played the full footage. The yelling, the lies, the aftermath. I terminated him for cause, announced new policies, made it clear what kind of airline this would be. The fallout was fast. Investigations, license suspension, lawsuits. He lost his pension, his reputation, the power he'd hidden behind for decades. Months later, I flew the same route, same seat, same hoodie. The culture wasn't perfect, but it was different. And that's how change really happens, not with slogans, but with moments where someone says, no, this stops here. So that's my story. Not about revenge, not about money, but about what happens when prejudice meets accountability at 30,000 feet. Now, I want to hear from you. Was the response justified? Where do we draw the line between authority and abuse? Have you ever been judged before anyone knew who you really were? Drop your thoughts, your disagreements, your own stories in the comments. Let's talk about it.